I got home from a 12-hour shift to find my mother-in-law in my kitchen. "You're home late. Dinner's cold." Again. My husband looked at me like I was the problem. "She's helping out. You could learn something." My sister-in-law whispered, "Maybe he needs a real wife." I didn't cry. I just sent an email to my HR department. 3 days later, my company posted a job for my husband's exact role. I'm a trauma nurse in Baltimore. I work at one of the busiest hospitals in the city, and my shifts are usually 12 to 14 hours, sometimes longer if we're short-staffed. That night, I was running on fumes. I'd held a dying man's hand while he coded. I'd watched a mother scream when we told her we couldn't save her son. And I still had to chart, disinfect, and restock supplies. I hadn't eaten. I barely had time to pee. So when I walked through my front door at 8:40 p.m. and smelled overcooked green beans and burnt meatloaf, I already knew something was off. That smell wasn't mine. I hadn't cooked in 3 days. Then I saw her, my mother-in-law, sitting at my table, her coat still on, like she owned the damn place. "You're home late," she said, not even looking at me. "Dinner's cold." Again. That wasn't the first time she'd said something like that. But that night, after what I'd seen, it hit different. She didn't care that I'd been working myself raw. She didn't care that I was saving lives. All she cared about was that I wasn't here playing house. Chris didn't even stand up. Just looked at me from the couch and shrugged. "She's helping out," he said. "You could learn something." Helping? I wanted to scream. She'd been helping herself to my kitchen for months. She moved in after her divorce for a couple weeks. That was 11 months ago. 11 months of hearing her whisper about me not being good enough. 11 months of her reorganizing my pantry, rewashing clothes I'd already done, and reminding me that real women cook dinner for their husbands. Then came the cherry on top. His sister Rachel, sitting there sipping my wine, looked me dead in the eye and said, "Maybe he needs a real wife." She said it like a joke, but she meant every word. I didn't say anything. I didn't slam a door, or cry, or throw a plate. I just walked upstairs. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely unzip my scrubs. I took the hottest shower I could stand, scrubbing the smell of death and bleach and their words off my skin. I sat on the edge of the tub for a long time after, dripping wet, just staring at the tile. And I knew. I wasn't going to beg him to see me. I wasn't going to try harder. I wasn't going to explain to his mother that I wasn't lazy or cold or ungrateful. I was done. I'd been holding this marriage together with duct tape and hope for the last 3 years, and he had the nerve to let his mom and sister tag-team me in my own damn home, like I was the intruder.
No, he was the guest.
And he'd forgotten that everything he had came from me. Chris and I met back when we were both in college. I was in a fast-track nursing program. He was still figuring things out. I was working part-time as a CNA, busting my ass. He was working at a coffee shop and smoking weed every night.
He had charm, though.
He said I grounded him. He made me laugh. He always talked big about making something of himself. I married him 2 years later. He bounced from job to job after that. Retail, sales, a failed podcast. I was pulling overtime to cover bills. I didn't complain, not then. I figured he'd find his thing eventually. Then he told me he wanted something more stable, and I helped him get a job in finance at my hospital. My friend Laura owed me a favor, and she fast-tracked his application. I coached him through the interviews. I even helped edit his damn resume.
He got the job.
He was excited at first. He bought a new laptop, got dress shirts tailored. I thought, this is it. We're finally building something. That lasted maybe 6 months. Then the laziness kicked back in. Missed deadlines. Oversleeping. Complaining about how corporate life wasn't for him. He started hiding out in the parking garage on calls just to scroll Reddit. I kept covering for him. I still believed in him. I thought marriage meant sticking it out. But over time, he stopped seeing me as a partner. I became the nag, the killjoy, the person always too tired for date night. While I was working 60 hours a week keeping us afloat, he was home, half-assing his job and letting his mother and sister chip away at me. And I let them. Until that night. When I got out of the shower, I opened my laptop. I stared at the screen for a while, thinking about everything I'd done for this man. All the time, energy, sacrifices. And all the ways he'd let me down. I started typing. I sent Laura an email. It wasn't emotional. It was professional. Clinical. I just said I knew someone, a friend from Hopkins with more experience, better credentials, and a proven track record. I asked if they were open to internal referrals, since I'd heard some restructuring might be coming. I mentioned, briefly, that I had concerns about one existing team member's performance. I included facts. Nothing more. I hit send. Then I closed the laptop and went to bed without saying a word to anyone. 3 days later, Laura texted me. Got your email. We're posting the job today. Thanks again. I'll handle everything discreetly. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. That night, Chris looked worried. He got some email from HR and started pacing. I just sat there eating leftover takeout. His mom muttered about how this company treats family. Rachel said maybe it was my fault, bad energy in the house or something. I didn't say a word. They didn't know what was coming. The job posting went live on a Wednesday. By Friday, Chris's name was already being whispered around the department. Not officially, of course, but people talk, especially in our hospital. Finance and admin staff eat lunch near the elevators, and I could feel it in the air. Something was shifting. I didn't say anything at work. I didn't text Laura again. I wanted it to look like I was completely out of the loop. At home, though, things started to crack. Chris came home early that Friday. It was around 2 p.m., which already told me something was wrong. I was off that day and folding laundry upstairs when I heard the door slam. Are you home? He shouted. I came downstairs, calm as ever.
Yeah.
What's up? He looked pale.
Sweaty.
He rubbed the back of his neck like he always did when he was panicking. They're restructuring, he said. Some new position just got posted that overlaps with mine. I played dumb. What do you mean? I don't know. It's weird. HR didn't say I'm being fired, but they said they're bringing in someone new. My role's getting merged. I nodded slowly. So, what happens to you? They said I can either take a lower-level support position or take a severance package. I tilted my head. Support? Like assistant. Basically. I didn't smile. I didn't say a word. I just went back to folding the towels. He followed me upstairs. This is messed up, he said. I've been there almost 3 years. I didn't remind him that I got him the job, that I helped write his cover letter, that I vouched for him. That weekend, his mom was in full meltdown mode. They can't just do this, she kept yelling. You're a loyal employee. I was in the kitchen trying to meal prep for my overnight shift, and she came in ranting. She pointed at the stack of Tupperware I was feeling like I'd insulted her cooking. You've never supported him. You think working all the time makes you better? It doesn't. A man needs respect in his own home. I finally looked up and stared her down. He's 34 years old. He needs to earn it. She flinched. She didn't say another word. Sunday night, Rachel showed up again with a grocery bag. Uninvited, as usual. She made some big show of helping cook dinner while I sat in the bedroom, finally trying to rest. Around 7, I heard her voice through the vents. If I lost my job, my man wouldn't just sit there. She should be out there fixing this, not playing victim. That was it. I grabbed my keys and left.
Drove around for a while.
Got a sandwich. Sat in the car. My hands were trembling again, but this time it wasn't from exhaustion. It was from rage. Not even at him anymore. I expected this from Chris. But her? Rachel? She lived in a studio apartment with 2 cats and still got money from their mom. She hadn't worked more than part-time retail since 2020. And she had the nerve to talk about what my man needed? When I got home later that night, I pulled out a folder I'd been keeping for a while. A quiet little collection of documents I'd been stashing over the years. Not for revenge at first, just for protection. Receipts. Bank transfers. Screenshots. Things I noticed Chris doing, small stuff I didn't fully process until now. There were PayPal charges to someone named Tina. A few Uber receipts from addresses that didn't match anything I recognized. One Lyft trip to a hotel downtown while I'd been working nights. And the worst part? One of the receipts was from the night I was working a double and came home to a guy's night in our living room. He said they were just hanging out, watching football. Turns out, he left halfway through to meet someone else across town. That was the night I came home to find my scrub top torn at the hem. He joked it was from the laundry. I remember feeling like I was losing my mind that week. I cried in the break room at 2 a.m. and blamed it on stress. I wasn't crazy. He was just good at lying. So I printed everything, sorted it, made a neat little pile, and slipped it into a drawer. Not for court. Not yet. But just in case. Monday morning, I left for work early.
Chris was still in bed.
I stood there and looked at him for a minute, his mouth half open, drooling on the pillow. No job. No plan.
No clue.
I didn't wake him. I didn't kiss him goodbye. I just walked out. At work, Laura caught me by the elevator. Off the record, she said, we've chosen the other candidate. HR will finalize his exit paperwork by the end of the week. I nodded. He won't know it came from me, right? I asked. She shook her head. You're clean. By Wednesday, Chris had taken the severance. He tried to spin it like a power move. They're going to miss me, he said, half laughing, while drinking a beer at 2 p.m. in pajama pants. He had no idea. No job. No leads. And he still acted like it was beneath him to even look. 2 days later, I got a call from HR. Apparently, Chris had been using the company card, assigned to him for budgeting software for personal Amazon purchases. Nothing huge, but enough that it raised eyebrows when they did the final audit before processing his severance. Tech gadgets. A gaming headset. A streaming subscription or two. Laura said, we're documenting it, but we won't press charges if the items are returned or paid for. Just thought you should know. I nodded. I knew exactly where the packages had gone. Rachel's address. She had a wish list posted publicly online. I remembered seeing it months ago during Christmas. Some of the items matched line for line. And just like that, I realized it wasn't just emotional betrayal. He'd been funneling my money, technically, to support his sister's freeloading too. That night, I asked him straight out, do you know anything about the company card charges? He froze. What do you mean? I didn't blink. Amazon. Headset. Software. He turned defensive. It was part of a work-from-home setup. Before they let me go. It's not a big deal. You weren't working from home. He tried to play it off, but the damage was done. He knew I knew. And I could see the wheels turning trying to figure out what else I knew, how far this was going to go. By the weekend, things escalated. I came home Saturday morning after an overnight shift and found Rachel asleep on my couch. What the hell is she doing here? I asked Chris. She just needed a place for a few days. Her apartment had a plumbing thing. I laughed. Of course it did. Let me guess, her cats are with your mom? He didn't answer. I walked over, grabbed Rachel's blanket, and yanked it off the couch. She shot up. Jesus, what's your problem? I said, loud and clear, you have 30 minutes to leave. I don't care if you sleep in your car. Rachel stormed out, cursing. Chris didn't follow her, but he looked at me like I was someone he didn't recognize.
Good.
That was the point. The next day, I got a call I didn't expect, his mother. She wanted to talk. She asked if I could meet her at a diner down in Glen Burnie, halfway between us. I didn't want to, but something told me to go. I took a half day and met her there after lunch. She was already seated when I walked in, sipping tea.
No es mal.
You blindsided my son, she said before I even sat down. No, I said. Your son blindsided himself. You knew they were replacing him. I didn't flinch. I did. She narrowed her eyes. You think you're clever, but you forgot one thing. I didn't speak. I let her keep going. My brother's on the board at that hospital. You think he won't find out? That got my attention. I didn't know that. I kept my face still. She leaned forward, real smug. Maybe we can help each other. I finally spoke. Help each other how? Chris won't sue. You don't push anything else. No more digging. You stay married, keep your career, and we move past this. That's when it hit me. She knew about the misuse of funds. Maybe more. Maybe a lot more. She wasn't protecting Chris. She was protecting herself, her last name, the little image they'd built up. I stood up. Thanks for lunch. She grabbed my wrist. If you drag this through the mud, we'll make your life harder than you think. I pull my arm back. Then you better be ready for a war, Barbara. Because I'm done playing house. I walked out. That was the last time I saw her face to face. I didn't answer any more calls from Barbara after that diner meeting. I didn't respond to her 2-page email trying to clarify what she meant. I knew what she meant. Threats dressed up as concern. I went quiet. And I waited. Over the next 2 weeks, I kept everything normal on the outside. I still went to work. I came home. I kept the house clean. I even let Chris cook dinner twice, like we were back in a marriage that hadn't already bled out. I gave him rope. He had no idea that Laura had forwarded me copies of the audit logs and charges under his name. He didn't know I'd found the hotel receipts linked to a joint credit card he forgot to close. He didn't know I'd spoken to a woman named Tina on the phone, calmly and directly. She'd been seeing him on and off for 8 months. She thought I'd left him already. You seemed like the strong one, she said. I am, I told her. That's why I'm ending this the right way. I met with a lawyer the next morning. We drew up the divorce papers and listed marital misconduct as the reason. In Maryland, that still carries weight if you can prove cheating and financial abuse. I brought receipts, statements, screenshots. We even found evidence that Chris had been trying to start an LLC using money from our joint account, under Rachel's name. When I saw that, something inside me snapped for good. The lawyer smiled. You want to do this quietly, or do you want it to hurt? I said, I want it to leave a scar. The day I served him was cold and rainy. I asked for the sheriff to deliver it while I was at work. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to see his face. He called me 30 minutes after the papers hit the doorstep. Are you serious? He shouted into the phone. You're divorcing me? Over this? I stayed calm. Over everything, Chris. You just threw away our marriage. I said, no, you did. I'm just taking out the trash. I hung up. That night, when I got home, he was gone. No note. Just an empty living room and the smell of his cheap cologne lingering in the air. He'd packed up fast, but sloppy. Left a drawer full of socks. Left his hard drive plugged into the home office setup I paid for. So I went through it. That's when I found the final piece. He hadn't just been sending money to Rachel and Tina. He'd been talking to 2 other women online and promising to leave his cold, bitter wife as soon as he got his financial situation handled. He'd even set up a Tinder profile using photos from a hiking trip I had taken him on. I sent everything to my lawyer. A month later, we went to court. He showed up looking like a beaten dog. His lawyer tried to play it off like marital strain and misunderstandings. I kept my mouth shut and let my lawyer handle it. She was like a machine, laid out the timeline, dropped the printed messages, detailed the stolen funds, the emotional abuse, the threats from Barbara. The judge ruled in my favor. I got the house. He got none of my pension. I got to keep every cent of my savings. He walked away with his severance and half the debt he'd built with his little side projects. He looked at me as I walked out of the courtroom. Where am I supposed to go? He asked. I said, Rachel's couch. You two are used to sharing things. Barbara tried to call again after that, said I ruined her son's future. I blocked her. So did Laura after I showed her the voicemail. Tina texted me an apology. So did the other 2 women when I emailed them the full story. One of them sent me back a screenshot. Chris had reached out 2 nights earlier asking for a place to crash. Don't worry, she said. He's not welcome here. Rachel? She left town 2 weeks later after a local friend of mine posted the screenshots of their fake LLC application on Facebook. People talk. Her name was Mud. She'd listed the business as family-owned and had used my address without permission. We filed a police report for fraud. Nothing came of it legally, but she panicked and moved to West Virginia. Chris tried getting work again in Baltimore.
Couldn't.
Word got around. I didn't spread rumors, I just let people see what he did. In the end, his own behavior did the job for me. Last I heard, he's working part-time at a hardware store. Living with a cousin.
Me?
I'm still a nurse. Still working long shifts. But now when I come home, the house is quiet. No judgment. No ungrateful man on the couch. No mother-in-law picking apart my cooking. No sister-in-law raiding my fridge while calling me cold. Just peace. Finally. And dinner might still be cold, but it's mine.